أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله العظيم. In God do we place our trust, for He is the best disposer of affairs, and He's the all glorious and all perfect one. وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We will proceed today with the second ray, second station on page 34. Again, the rays, page 34. You can follow along from the screen, and at the same time, you can follow along from this Risale link, inshallah. So we left off at this last paragraph on page 34. Briefly, we are all journeying together with the author in terms of what does divine unity means for me. In other words, how can I utilize my human faculties or my whole being really to make sense of a one that I conclude to be an absolute source, not of the nature of this universe. And how can I see everything in this universe pointing to this single source of existence? And we are given this whole universe at our disposal, and at the same time we're given our tools, everything that we experience, our human feelings, faculties, different senses, our intellect, reasoning ability, anything really to make sense of how can I go on living in this universe in a satisfactory way as to attain inner peace, as some may refer to, eternal bliss, and really contentment and joy, happiness, and all that good stuff, right? So briefly, what we mentioned last week was some interesting keywords were brought up about how everything in this universe is acting like an army, pretty much it. So when I know that I'm part of the army, there's a sense of comfort where everything becomes familiar. We're all friends. Any events that we come across, it's not alien to us. And at the same time, we know that the army acts on behalf of a commander-in-chief, or what else can we say? Perhaps if we take ourselves as guest officials in this universe, then definitely we must have a royal host treating us like royalty here. And at the same time, we ought to be doing some responsibility on our end. So that was very interesting, how if I live with this awareness that everything is an official acting on behalf of this royal king, then I'm able to carry out various duties and really make sense of what everything means for me in terms of different experiences from the universe. And we also sort of touched upon the order in creation, that we are always subject to the order in the universe, whether I realize it or not. Some things may be very apparent when we're doing something. Let's say you're baking a cake, you're just following the order, that may seem apparent, but at the same time, anything, you can be just chilling, soaking up the sun, talking to some friends, but you're still following the order in creation. There's no way I can separate myself from the order. So at every moment, we are all subject to the order, to this order that we experience. And so when I'm aware that that I am subject to an order in the universe, then the inevitable question is, what is the source of existence of this order, really? And so that should bring my gaze to an orderer. In other words, so if I conclude this universe being the work of a one not of the nature of this universe, which we refer to as an absolute source, then this order that I experience definitely point to it. So there must be an orderer that's presenting all this to me, and I think it really helps to realize or be more aware that nothing here is acting on its own, and I think we can really apply any, like, all of this, what the author is presenting to us, theory, the order and orderer, to any practical experiences that we encounter. And I'll just pause here to check in if anybody has anything to share. Hi.
Hey, sure.
How are you?
Good. To add to that. So this section, we're also looking into how existence is happening. So as we see our existence, somebody is preferring us to exist. And the author makes mention about how based on whatever is preferred to exist is meaningful in terms of there's a value that is given. And if this being, how if he connects himself to this one who gives him existence, that connection gives that individual the value as well.
Mm.
If somebody, so just like you gave the examples, you mentioned about the army, if the soldier is not connected to the commander-in-chief, then the soldier acting on his own has no value at all. He won't be able to accomplish much because there's no backing, there's nothing in that soldier's, soul kind of mission. Whereas if he's connected to the absolute source, then everything becomes, comes to the aid of this individual, and everything, and he gains this particular value and is able to perform much more than, if there is no connection at all. So the connection with the absoluteness gives tremendous value to whoever is being given existence.
Oh, mashallah. Thank you so much for sharing this. This is very enlightening, and I do remember we touching upon this, but this is amazing. Yeah, so not only do I get value, but everything around me just becomes so much valuable when I'm connecting everything to the source of existence. Alhamdulillah. All right, so we can proceed. Let me just scan in the room. It's not much of us today, but okay. So let's proceed. Bismillah. Since the reality is this, and since as we see with our own eyes, everything is infinitely valuable and full of art and meaningful and powerful. Most definitely, there can be no way other than the way of divine unity. Oh, this sounds so good. Let's reread this again. Sorry. Since the reality is this, and since as we see with our own eyes, everything is infinitely valuable and full of art and meaningful and powerful, most definitely there can be no other way other than the way of divine unity. If there was another way, it would be necessary to change all beings, empty the world into non-existence, and then refill it with meaningless junk. So that a way could be opened up to associating partners with God. If there was, it would be necessary to change all beings. Yeah, I wonder, what does it mean, necessary to change all beings? In what ways? Empty the world into non-existence. And like, in other words, how do I explain existence? How do I explain the things here, right? Because only through it do I see it meaningful, and then more meaningful when it's connected to a commander-in-chief. So if there, it would be necessary to change all beings, empty the world into non-existence, and then refill it with meaningless junk, so that a way could be opened up to associating partners with God. What can be meaningless junk? Maybe non-existence. Yeah, right. I have my friend here scratching his head. Interesting here. Yeah, let's. I don't know if anyone has any take on this, but like junk can be, well, okay. So maybe it's non-existent. So, okay, maybe let's see what he says, and then we can go on. So now you have heard a brief summary of only one of hundreds of proofs which elucidate the affirmation of divine unity in the Risale-i Nur, which, in the words of Imam Ali, may God be pleased with him, is Siracü'n-Nur, the Illuminating Lamp, and Siracü'n-Nur. You may make analogies with this for the others. So, all right, so just everything can be found in the Risale-i Nur if you want to go deeper into that. But what does he mean here? And I'm just wondering about that. So, definitely we see everything as being meaningful, and so there can be no other way. If there's creation, then there must be a creator. If I experience existence, then there must be a one that's giving me existence. If I experience and observe the order, then there must be an orderer. Okay, clear cut. And now you're bringing in.
So he's saying if it's not associated to divine unity, then the other option is to associate partners.
Mm.
And for that, so with associating partners, basically you have to do so much work, which is pretty much impossible, to empty the world into non-existence. You know, it's contrary, and something meaningless, basically. Is there anything in this world that is meaningless? Everything points to a meaning. So
oh yeah, I see.
Meaningless junk. So there's no such thing. So the impossibility of the associating partners. I mean, if only this could happen, that there is some meaningless thing, but that's an impossibility.
Okay.
And bringing something into non-existence. I mean, again, empty the world into a non-existence. But I don't know if somebody else has some understanding. So that's what I'm saying. It's just a comparison of what divine unity brings meaning to the things.
Yeah.
It brings the value, infinite value, the art that is there, the strength, power, as he said about, earlier in the text. Everything gains strength and force by that connection with the absolute one, with unity. But if you attribute it to chance and causes all over the place, you have to go and ask them. If everybody has their own say, how can you trust each and everything? Because you have to go through it, everything.
Yeah. So if there was no such thing as divine unity, then everything just would be meaningless, pretty much. Even though at face value I'm like meaningful, but within the meaningful, it's meaningless. So there's definitely like strong usage of these words, and that could be opened up to associating partners with God, as in, but this, well, I don't know about that one, the last one. Why would that open up association? Like, you won't even associate anything. It's just like accident then. That won't, I mean, to me, it would open up the universe being a result of accident. Wow. Well, how, if everything is meaningless junk, then how could that open up associating partners with God? Because, let me see. Because how we were saying last time, that tree and the fruit, I can get lost, because of the tree, the fruit is growing. So in that way, I do understand that how it would open up associating partners with God. But here we're talking about how everything is meaningless junk. But let's see, there's some help maybe on the chat. So Sohail is saying, because you associate causality to things themselves. Can you please a little bit explain more on that? Thank you.
Right, so I can, so just, I mean, based off that sentence, when you don't recognize divine unity, then it's unavoidable to not ascribe some sort of creatorship to things themselves, because man knows things must have a cause of existence, whether it's God or things themselves. And so you're left, by denying divine unity, you're left with things themselves. And that's how you associate partners with God. You give, the sun some sort of godlike quality, or the rain, or the earth, or animals, or plants, or yourself. And really, if you go further and further, as Norsi often says, to the number of particles in the universe, if you keep going further and further down. So you're only left with two options. Either there are a number of gods, there are gods to the number of particles in the universe, or there's only one absolute creator, not of the nature of the universe. So that's what I understood.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, that makes the case nicely clear in terms of how causality can lead me to associating partners with God. So then with each particle, there is a way for me to ascribing the power to give existence to it, rather than if I attribute everything to one single source, then it helps me stay on the right track with my understanding.
So it's not a single source, and every particle have those qualities.
Oh yeah, to give existence, right?
Yeah.
That's wow. Alhamdulillah, thank you. And then I see Osmani and Ali hand up, and then we can read H. Beza's comment afterwards. So go ahead, Osmani and Ali. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. That was a good explanation you and at the same time Suhail presented. I wanted to make the general topic about this associating partners with God. This is the translation and common translation of the word used in the Quran, shirk, or the one who does this action is called mushrik. So because of the definition, or the literal definition of shirk, it means partnership. I mean, for example, mushtarak means doing something together, comes from the same word again. Shirka also is an Arabic word. It means partnership. It means there are more than one members or the owners of one company. That is called also, this company is a shirkat. It means partnership company. So from there, common understanding of the literal meaning of shirk is somebody believes in God and assigns a partner to this God. It means simple, the people's understanding of the this word used in the Quran, even the first audience of or addressee of the Quran, the speech of God, were pagans, but at the same time, they believed in God. They don't say pagans, they say mushrikun, or assigning partners to God, believing in God, but at the same time, that is our God here, the idol representing our clan or our tribe. So say that they believe it in God. But the more conscious people don't use this word to describe the contemporary of the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, as mushrik. They say pagan. So it causes the problem in the minds of the classical scholarship that, but pagans don't have the notion of God. They cannot be mushrik, whereas Quran addresses them as mushrik. I think you are familiar with this common understanding, popular understanding of the word. I'm sure most of you, there's a friend next to me. Did you hear it like this? I'm asking the friend. That shirk means believing in God and also assigning another God or attributing the Godhead to another thing, another object or thing. In your culture, popular culture.
This is the common understanding.
Yeah, that's what the common understanding, whether it's right or wrong. But the author of the book we are reading doesn't present the case in this way at all. I don't recall any definition of shirk that the common understanding is very prevalent in the world, especially in the Muslim world, the students of the Quran. So he uses ascribing Godhead the divine qualities to causes. Yeah. It means what is happening in the universe, ascribing the source of existence of the things happening in the universe to anything by definition saying that this is a divine quality. It means the power to give existence to something else or to itself. That definition makes us understand or forces us to understand that shirk means not believing in God and at the same time believe in something else as having God position to be worshipped. That's why not some of the classical typical tradition, one of the modern typical tradition, which is called Wahhabi tradition, they say always there is nothing worthy of worship, they say, worship, other than, they don't say God, they prohibit to say God, Allah. It makes it even worse. Really, not only complicated, meaningless. What do you mean by Allah? They don't define Allah. That is the tradition, the Salafi movement says, no, you cannot define Allah, finish. Allah is Allah, finish. That is literalist. We have to know what is going on in the majority of the people here. So in our century, in our contemporary world, so we shouldn't fall into this kind of funny understandings and forced translations or forced understanding, interpretation of the words of the Quran. Mushrik means, but that's my understanding from the readings of this author. Mushrik means someone assigns supposedly divine power to anything other than the source of existence of everything. So that understanding, it means assigning a partner to anything in the universe, to the source of the existence of the universe, because the notion of looking for the cause of anything which exists in the universe is human. If you like, it is intrinsic to human nature. Everything you in your daily life, you ask, this happened, what was the cause for it? For example, typical example, there is a chair. Who made this chair? It's quite normal, common, quiet things we say. We look for it. Who made this chair? Or there was a chair in one room, and then you find the same chair in the other room. Who moved it? We say who. Okay, this is who. So there was a tree broken or knocked down on the street. We say, because it is not likely to be done by a human being, we say, what was the reason? Wind, storm, or what? Or lightning struck it? Or we ask for reason. But unfortunately, that is the common trend in temporary world, that people study the world, how it works, but they don't ask this question when it comes to the reason to exist, which is very common word, and also in philosophy they call it raison d'être. So reason to exist, reason to be, we don't ask the reason to be for the universe or for the particle. Reason to be, it means the reason to exist. We paraphrase this in this group, in this, how do you say, among these people, we studied this book together. We said the source of existence. We don't say reason, the cause of existence, we say source of existence, because cause, the word cause, I try to avoid to use it for God, the causer of the cause, asbab, musabbabul asbab, which is a very Muslim philosophical, or not Muslim really, even it is cause, it is discussed in Greek tradition as well. The causer of the causes. I mean, the causes, I see that the wind blew and the tree is knocked down. So this is the cause. But what is the cause of existence of this power in the wind? So they say gravity. What is the cause of existence of gravity? Yeah, that is very human question. So if I say gravity exists by itself, it means I am assigning divine power to gravity. That is what is going in the scientific world. They say, that's it. I mean, gravity is there. No, it is there. Either it is eternally there, or it happened to be there. Whatever the reason, we have to use the gravity. That's it. Forget about the cause of existence. It means looking for the cause of existence is in fact looking for the divine power. Divine power means a power which can only be described not at all with the universe, the conditions of the universe, but as an answer to the human question that the human mind asks. What is the cause of existence of the universe? Or what is the cause of existence of matter? So the matter. This matter, we call it matter, material, whatever, or nature. Well, if you say nature, what's the cause of existence of nature? So this is very human question. You got it?
Yeah.
So if I say, oh, do you want to say something? The friend next to me, sir.
I just wanted to emphasize, you say that we should not use in our language the cause and refer it to the source rather. Is it to get away from the view of having a causal chain effect outside of the direct action of the creator at every stage, meaning you set a clock and then it's working? This view is supported by using the language of a causal, like the
causal
creator is
chain.
A causal, is causing this reaction or is causing this chain.
Or the causal chain.
But still, between every element in that chain, you may associate the actions to the causal effect, basically, between the two.
So if I say, for example, something, what do you say? If I burn this one, it gives heat, let's say, or this one diffuses energy. If you clash two particles, for example, or the electrons clash energy. That is, I think, the subject of the physics. So clash, it means the energy is caused for the energy, sorry, is caused for the clash of the atoms or particles of the atoms or whatever the nuclear of atoms. I don't know the technical side of it, but it means as Suhail said, actually, every particle has a divine power. Everything in this universe has a divine power. Divine power, by definition, is not necessarily we accept that divine is God or something. No, by definition, divine means something which is able to give existence to another thing. Whatever the small or big is not important. We use in our practical language saying that what is the cause of existence of this huge universe? That is what I use a lot. Of course, to attract the people's attention, how the universe is perfect and sophisticated and really it is beyond imagination. So how can you attribute this beyond imagination huge universe to accidental happenings so that it happened to be perfectly working like this accidentally? In order to emphasize this aspect of the matter, to use the word huge universe is acceptable. But it doesn't have to be huge. If you are able to give existence to an atom, that's it. You can bring trillion or countless numbers of atoms into existence, and also you can bring the order of the universe into existence because you are bringing the things into existence out of nowhere. No, using nothing, using nothing. It was, I will that to happen, that's why it happens. That's what the Quran describes God. He wills anything, kun fayakun. فَإِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا. شَيْئًا means big, small, complicated, simple, doesn't matter. Any kind of a type of existence. That is the description of shay'an. Shay'an not as an object, as the translators sometimes use it, anything, and the commentators say, oh, it cannot be because if the object exists. No. It means you can imagine any kind of things may appear into existence. So when the divine power by definition just wills anything, how small, how big, regardless, how complicated or simple, regardless, any kind of things you can imagine. Now, divine power means divine power, the one who has the divine power can give existence to anything out of his will. Out of will only, using no other means. That is the definition of divine power. And it goes back to whoever has this quality, it has the divine power. Whoever has the divine power means God. Now, assigning this divine power to anything of the part of this universe is shirk, because what we are doing, we are assigning another thing to the definition of divine power, rather than really the divine power, although they are not the divine power. What the Quran says, all the things you ascribe biduni bidunillah, or yes, bidunillah, let's say, I mean, apart from God, ghayrullah also is Quranic language. If you assign anything, the power to create means this divine power, other than the one by definition has the divine power, but not of the kind of this universe. That's why La ilaha means this. Not of the kind of this universe, but anything which has this quality is the source of existence of this universe, and it happened out of his will. That's it. We cannot really think about the divine power, the quality of the divine power, or how do you say, essence of the divine power, how it acts. No. We can only say it must be the out of will, because there's no other reason that I can imagine. So shirk means this. That's why I wanted to go into a detail about this subject, because when you say the mushrik, the Quran, especially if you are understanding the Quran, trying to understand the Quran, if you understand the mushrik, the word mushrik is mentioned in the Quran as a person who believes in God, and next to God there is something that this person assigns Godhead. I think this is the century now. People don't believe in God and assign something else. But some believers of God may do it, practically speaking, without realizing what they are doing. And in the language of the Quran, without realizing what they are doing, but in fact they believe in the divine power, the divine power, in the language of the Quran, they are not mushrik. But although in popular language, we use it, is it unintended shirk. It means as a result of negligence, as a result of ignorance. But in fact, this person believes in God. But real meaning of the language mushrik or shirk in the Quran does not define that somebody believes in God and next to the God, another God. And I assigned it, but it is not really God. So what do they do it classically and historically? What they need to do it because Muslims encounter the Christians. So Christians believe Trinity. Trinity is believing in God and also Jesus God and also
Holy God the Father, God the Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit, yes. Ruh al-Quds. The Holy Spirit is God as well. Then you say, no, there are three. No. It is shirk. If somebody really believes in God, the other things must be what they are doing. It must be something they don't have the proper definition of divine power, divine being. They don't have the proper. That is why the problem is not believing in God, but at the same time saying Jesus is God. No. Problem is they don't really believe in God. If God needs a son to represent him on earth, a needy thing cannot be divine power or divine being. A needy thing. Also, the problem is with the definition of divine power or with the definition of God. So they got it in a very simple or the superficial way, and then maybe according to their century, in order to reject Christian ideology of divinity, they have to say they believe in God, but at the same time they assign anything else as God. It means referring or hinting actually to Christian tradition or Christian theology. But I think nowadays our problem is not with the Christian theology. Our problem is really assigning every single a particle of the universe a divine quality. Because otherwise you cannot explain the universe. So if you don't believe in the conscious will of a divine power, which is called God, deliberately creating this world for a purpose, then everything else in the universe, every kind of interpretation of the universe turns the universe into, as this text said, a meaningless junk, no purpose, happened to be by itself. Every particle is a God, but it's not a conscious God. It doesn't have a purpose. So it is itself is bound by the order. Which kind of divine power you are assigning? You don't know what you are doing. It means meaningless things in your eyes. The universe is a meaningless junk. That is the very interesting point for me. So I wanted to share it with you.
Thank you so much for sharing your reflections. This whole point about shirk, or I think what was put on the chat, polytheism. I think it really has to do also with one's awareness of what does it mean when I conclude something to be an absolute source. So I think also like how we interact with things. So if I look at, there's several particles that we are, endless particles we are interacting with and we have relationship with, but I think this is a good reminder, at least for me, that not to fall into this trap of a shirky attitude. I mean, the universe must have a creator, but then here I am eating fruits and vegetables, and that's causing good health. No. So I think I also like the emphasis on, human beings question what is the causer of this. And so I feel that it all has to do with, the example that you gave about, there was wind last night, and guess what? The tree just, what do you say? The tree breaks? Fell. Right. So the tree fell. But so I think it's questioning the act of creation itself. And then if I question the act of creation, then that should lead me towards an absolute source. Otherwise, if I don't see it as an act of creation, then obviously I'll be stuck in causal chain, or what we were saying, causality, that there was a wind and then it blew and the tree fell off. There was
power.
So
what is the source of power?
Power, something powerful. The wind was powerful.
Right.
So was the source of existence.
Is the wind powerful?
Well, this is good. Is it it's the wind? No, it's not. So what is powerful?
That's the quality, which is the divine quality from every quality that you see: will, knowledge, power.
So this quality is not from the air.
The strength, the gravity, force.
Wow.
So what is that being attributed to? Is it being attributed to the wind? The wind itself is needy. It cannot have those divine qualities. It's a created thing. The tree is a needy thing. It needs to be given existence, so it cannot have divine quality. It's needy itself.
This is really scary, because at first glance, definitely I'm like, the wind is powerful, but I think we interact with the quality, but then realizing that what is this notion of wind. What is wind? Or like you're saying, the gravity and everything. Oh boy. All right, so I need a lot of thinking to do, but I'll pause here, and then I see Sohail, your hand is up. Go ahead, please. Thank you for being patient.
I think Khadija Beza had a comment, but I just wanted to touch on what Ali Murmur said. This verse kind of, it reminds me of the conversation, discussion about this verse. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, from Siracü'n-Nur, chapter 52, verse 35. أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون, or were they created of nothing or by nothing, or were they themselves creators? And also just the idea of La ilaha. You know, kind of growing up, you know, you always used to hear that the Quran doesn't address atheism, but like overtly or openly, but you know, like through these you know, halaqas we have, and just thinking, you know, it's because you can't, it's unavoidable, you know, to assign Godhead or some sort of a divinity or divine power to something is unavoidable. It's just it's a necessity that's beyond human, that's within human nature. So there's no such thing as quote unquote like atheism in the sense of a denial of divinity, but it's just the assigning of divinity to things themselves, and frankly to all things. So even the Quran says, I mean, when you say La ilaha, it's as if, you know, God is acknowledging, or the Quran's acknowledging that implicit, like you already know that there must be a source. The question is, where do you find that source? So La ilaha says, I don't find that source in the universe or within any particular thing in the universe. Like it's just obvious. It's human. It's unavoidable. It's inevitable. So like somebody who says, I don't believe in a source, I mean, you really have to question, like, what do they actually mean by that? Because everybody believes in a source or some sort of one who gave existence. And then even in this verse, or were they created by nothing? You know, it's acknowledging that, you know, man knows that he must be given existence, or some things must be given existence, or if you want to, in the modern language, something must be causing something else, which is implicitly saying something caused something else to exist, to be. So whether that was, you know, rain causing or sun causing a plant to be, or as you know, Ali Murmur put, lightning causing a tree to fall. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, any human being who denies that is, you know, you would think he's insane. So nobody denies that. But the question then is who or what that source is. So if you assign it to particles or to things, min ghayri shay'in, like literally any one thing, the smallest or the biggest thing you can think of, what are you really assigning divinity to? To nothing, honestly. Because they have no power in and of themselves. And when you do that, it's as if everything becomes nothing, so to speak, in another way, because everything becomes meaningless, or as Nursi puts it, meaningless junk. Everything is a total waste. That's what happens. So it's this verse. It reminds me, like Nursi's discussion, and what Ali Murmur was saying reminds me of this verse, because it almost in two ways says that, you know, if you associate divinity to things, you're associating divinity to something that has no power whatsoever. It's really nothing, in a sense. Not that it's not real, but it doesn't have any creator-like quality or creatorship. And in the same and by doing so, things become nothing to you. They become meaningless. So that's what I just wanted to add.
Oh, mashallah, thank you so much for sharing this. Yeah, it connects well with this paragraph that we just read. And it's interesting. Yeah, I think the human being is made in a way where we want to give like some kind of deity quality to something, like we are in the know of a source of existence. And so here, this Quranic message is inviting my consciousness to really reflect over things in terms of, hey, what am I attributing it to? Is it something of this universe? I mean, so that's impossible because everything is in need to be created, but there must be an absolute source. So that was very refreshing. Thank you. And yes, Hatice Beyzat, thanks so much for your patience. Sorry for skipping your comment. Thank you. You were helping us out in terms of trying to understand the meaningless junk. Do you want to read your the 2 points? They look profound, and let's hear from you as well, inshallah. Let me pull up the other page. Where did it go? I lost it. Yep.
I hope you're able to hear me okay.
Yep, a little low, but you can speak louder, inshallah.
Okay, I hope this is better. Yeah, so
Yep.
I was thinking about, I guess it's related to what's been said though on a slightly different note. You know, how in nearly every discussion we discuss, or at least recently we've discussed how at every stage of existence, everything within the universe bears witness to La ilaha illahu. So meaning that the way in which everything exists necessarily points to an absolute source of existence. So just going back to the text here, where the author was saying if there was a way in which this divine unity was not the case, so to suppose any other situation in which this would not be the case, then I would have to render all things meaningless, since in their nature, in the way that they exist, they already bear witness to the existence of an absolute being. And I would either have to do that by rendering them meaningless by, you know, as we've discussed in many of our classes, associating the qualities that they manifest to themselves. So in other words, or as Brother Ali was saying, attributing divinity falsely to the things themselves when they are subject to change, transience, and they themselves are powerless, conscienceless, merciless. So, in other words, committing shirk in doing so. And then tying this to how the author says about emptying out the universe. So one way of understanding this is just as we've been discussing, severing that tie between the created and the creator. Or if we were to literally imagine, just, you know, in our imagination, just for a moment, the universe being emptied and then being refilled with junk, what would it be filled with? I'd have to take out everything that essentially bears witness to a necessary absolute source, single source of existence, so that it could be filled with meaningless junk. But what would that look like? I mean, essentially, it would be nothing or non-existence. Or in another class that we had discussed how absolute non-existence can in no way be the source of existence. So it would just look to non-existence. It wouldn't exist, in other words. And how the author says meaningless junk, like even junk itself you can repurpose, but he's like, no, it's meaningless. Like there's absolutely nothing else that you can do with it because it's gone. There is no, you can't recycle it. There's nothing you can do with it. Because it's not there, essentially, because it's lacking that meaning. Since existence is meaning and non-existence looks to meaninglessness. So in the first case, when I make things meaningless in my perception, that's again just in my perception and not in the reality of my existence since I exist. Hope that made sense. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, yeah, it does. Thank you for sharing your comment. And I really like the part about La ilaha illallah in terms of how the Quranic message or even the act of creation that we notice in the universe help us go through that. So when I, like the first part without concluding, La ilaha, like the necessary conclusion is illallah, or illahu, or something that I need to give, assign the power to give existence to, because I think it's very obvious, the La ilaha part, that's what our experiences are. And so from here, we need to work out the illahu part. So in other words, in their existence, everything declares La ilaha illallah. Yay, that's powerful. Alhamdulillah, thank you so much for sharing this. Any other share outs from anyone? Okay. All right, so you good?
Good.
Okay, good. Oh, Sohail, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just to add on to what Khadija Beza said, that's, I mean, interesting, about if you, well, you can't really conceive of meaninglessness. Like, it's like, what would be something that would be meaningless? It would be non-existent, as she said. So, like when people say that, or modern philosophers, or materialist scientists say that the world is meaningless. Like, I don't know, like, you have to think about what that even means. What does that statement mean? Because that statement even has meaning. And if the world was meaningless, then what would the world look like? It wouldn't be. In other words, you can't escape meaning. And if you can't escape meaning, then you can't escape any sort of source or Godhead. And if that's the case, then you have only one of two options: to assign it to things themselves, or to assign it to the absolute source, not of the nature of the universe.
Thank you. Osman and Ali, can you please read your comment? Sounds interesting. And explain it as well, please.
It is better. It was an answer to what Suhail wrote. I think Suhail can present it in a better way, if he doesn't mind. Otherwise, I can say a few words.
Oh, you can go ahead.
No? But polytheist also is not a better translation of the Quranic shirk. The Quranic shirk, not common Muslims understand, yes. But the Quranic shirk, as far as I understand, from the writings of this author, doesn't have theos in theo in their mind. It means there is no divine in their mind. But what do they say? Simply, it is happening like this. That's what I see. So I can explain the existence of something causing in front of my eyes in the sequence of the order of the universe. I say that this is the cause of existence of this one. For example, the typical example, if there was no sunlight, there would be no life. That's it. If the earth was somehow located in another direction, there would be no life and living being on earth. It will be just a dead planet, like other any of the planets known to human beings, no life there. That is why this location is the cause of existence of life, or the sun is the cause of existence of the sun. That is That is their understanding of causing something else to come into existence. That is the phrase we always need to use it. Causing something else to come into existence. So it is not really polytheism, because there is no theo there. There's no divine there. I didn't say it is God. If you ask any scientist, if they say this is the cause of this, when you say you believe in cause as God, he says, no, by definition, I don't believe in God. That is what I see. I'm describing what I see, nothing more than what I describe. Nothing to do. What do you bring the notion of theo, God, divine? There's no divine. I don't believe that. That is why they can only be called atheists, not polytheists. We have to know this kind of thing so that when we speak to people or when we really speak to ourselves, there are some people who believe in God, but at the same time, they assign a partnership to another thing. No, they don't. They may say, I believe in God. No. But if someone says, I believe in God, he must have a reason. But what is the trend nowadays in the world? They don't mention about God. They just say, look at your life conditions, try to make your life better and enjoy your life until you die. What are you talking about, God or something? Where did you get these abstract notions? I mean, this is just what you hope to be, but pointless. This is just made up artificial feelings, they say. So that's what I wanted to emphasize. Even the assigning partnership with God is wrong. Polytheism is wrong understanding of the Quranic concept of shirk.
Okay, thank you. So, Sohail, you have your question. You can go ahead and iterate it and.
Yeah, I guess it's to Ali Murmur's point. So, well, I guess my question then is theo or theology, when it pertains to divine, does that mean that somebody's referring to a divine revelation? Because otherwise, how do you have some notion of God, so to speak, or one who created the universe, rather than causal? There's no divine, or there's no theology there, or divine revelation. Is that the big distinction between the two?
Brother Ali?
Theology, by definition, accepts that there is divine power. I am not putting any article in front of it, the divine power, a divine power. No, there is divine power. And then study. But in the course of time, people's understanding of divine power may be diverted, correct, wrong. That is another subject. But theology, from the beginning, accepts that, by definition, I'm saying, it is not a blind belief. No, by definition, there is divine power, but let's talk about this divine power. Let's discuss about this divine power, which kind of things the divine power brought into existence and how it happened, etc. But nowadays, science says, I am studying the universe. I am not studying theology. What does it mean? I am not accepting such a thing exists at all. That's why atheism. There is no theo. I think this point, there is no need to speak more, but if you think, we can talk, if you need.
Does anyone need to talk more on things? Okay, so that clarifies it. All right, wonderful. So, okay, any questions from anyone? Though I was trying to also make sense of the case here. So because the way we are created, we look for a source of existence of something. And if I just deny it, I just say, no, can't be it. So then I'm an atheist. Rather than if I am going in my search, gee, what is the source of existence to things that I'm interacting with? Oh yeah, there must be a absolute source. Then, okay, I'll be in a believing category, but within that, I'm prone to polytheism. And so yes, now it makes sense. So theo, right? Theo means like something, a divine being. If I'm
so Brother Leo was saying there is no polytheism, because polytheism implies that you have a belief in Theo.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's right. That's why.
So I think that comment that you made about, because you need to know that there is a divinity to be able to give those divine qualities to the thing.
Okay. So Hatice Beza is saying, is polytheism and atheism the same in this regard? Since they both attribute divine qualities to something that isn't divine. So Hatice, what I understand right now from what Asim is sharing is that in polytheism, there is still this notion of a divine. So the theo part, where but here I'm erring, where I'm attributing everything as being divine. And with atheism, I'm just rejecting atheo. I don't know. Or I'm rejecting a divine deliberately. So does anybody wanna, that's really what I took away, but I don't know if anybody wanna chime in or share in their understanding on that. Feel free to let know. Hatice, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm still slightly confused because what I got out of it was that there's also no theo in polytheism as well, because in the act of ascribing multiple partners, or in other words, shirk, right, divine attributes to things that cannot necessarily be the source of existence, then there's no theo in that, and hence doesn't it fall to like a similar ground as atheism, which then attributes the divine qualities to nature or whatever? Because didn't we say that within human nature is innate it's innate to attribute a cause to something? So in both cases, there's an attribution going on, but again, in both cases, the attribution of divine qualities is attributed to that which cannot be divine or is of the nature of the universe. So I'm still a little hazy on that.
Anyone care to share? Go ahead, Swill.
So what I think I understood from Ali Member was saying in that, I mean, to give an example, I believe in let's say a God, whoever that God is, who has divine power to create the universe, but at the same time, maybe unintentionally or out of my own ignorance, I say, well, it's snowing today, or snowing where I am, and the snow made the ground wet, let's say. Or the snow caused a tree to fall, something like that. That's not, that may be an unintended sort of, or a form of, out of ignorance, maybe committing quote unquote shirk. But the shirk, at least in the modern sense that the Quran is referring to, is the one in which you don't have any notion of divinity whatsoever. You just think of the world as a causal chain. So in other words, you don't think about a source of existence that is potentially beyond things themselves. You think of, attributing qualities to cause itself. And in other words, shirk doesn't have a particular definition in the Quran. It's not strictly defined by simply, I believe in God or some sort of divine power. But at the same time, I think that, or in my everyday life, that when I strike a match, it lights itself. It's like something as basic as that. It can be anything really, but any sort of everyday example. Or when I strike a match and put it to a piece of paper, it'll burn. Forgetting or just ignoring divine power, the all-encompassing nature of divine power. Whereas in atheism, there's no sort of theology there. There's no sort of notion of divine power. It's just cause and effect within things themselves. And that is the shirk of our age.
Hatice, do you have any follow-up questions? Okay. If not, then go ahead, Osman and Ali.
I like this definition. Hatice Beyza made it clearer that taking the quality of divine power from the real owner of divine power, but not accepting the real owner of the divine power, but, real owner of divine power, and denying the real owner of the divine power without realizing, thinking about it, and investing this quality of divine power to anything. That's a shirk. That's why it is assigning a partner to God. But in fact, not knowing what God is, or not being aware of or believing in God is. But people, we have to understand that apart from those people who consciously, deliberately avoid and contradict their nature, their instinct, or their innate quality, asking for divine, they deliberately shut it down. But how many people do that? I don't think many. Or only these sort of arrogant scientists do, because they believe they are the great people. Although they are really, yes, they are smart, I understand. But as a human being, they are not defining themselves as human beings. They're animate beings. They define themselves, go and speak to them. Talk about their emotions, expectations, fears, their consciousness. They say, that just happened to be as an animate being. That's it. Yes, dogs have also feelings, but the feelings that a dog has, doesn't question the source of existence and where am I going, why am I here, what is expected of me, what will happen tomorrow to me. The dog doesn't think that, although he has feelings. They describe themselves as living being, animate being, living being, a live being. It has life, but no humanity spirit. So that's why it is important for us to understand body, life, and spirit, ruh. So we have three main elements in us. Body and life are directly connected to each other. Spirit is using them. He is the commander. So anyways, this is Islamic history talks about it a lot. They said heart. I don't agree. Heart is, Ghazali says, heart the commander in the body. No, Ruh is the commander. Ruh is the one who is holding them, utilizing them. When body loses the life, this is important to understand. How do we define ourselves so that it is innate in us, and what is innate in us? For example, body, yes, as a body. Life, yes, as living body, not like stone. Make it simple. Living body. When living body loses its living quality, then body cannot function under the commandership of the soul. So since, for example, if a car doesn't work, what do you do? It's not repairable. What do you do? Junk. Throw it. So Ruh says, okay, I'm going, bye-bye. When we die, actually, our body loses the quality of living conditions. I think as a person who deals with medicine, Suhail will understand this better. And if I'm wrong, he will correct me. When the body loses its life, it is dead. Why? Because by definition, spirit lives it. You cannot use this tool in the conditions of this universe, because spirit is created for eternal, another life. So it needs another tool in order to function, which never loses its life. That is why the Quran says, Inna dar al-akhirati lahiya al-hayawan. Everything in the universe is, in the next creation, is living. There is no body which will lose its life. That is extremely important to understand the Quranic concepts. So there is no body without any life. That is why the earth will be like animal here. Like we will be walking on alive horses, for example. This is what I mean when I climb up on a mountain. In the next creation, it will be another kind of alive dinosaur. This is what I mean. I mean, it is only we can imagine. We can imagine. But Quran describes it like this. It definitely the hereafter, the next creation, I will create everything animal. It means the spirit will reside in it and use it to communicate with the other creatures realized by God forever, because there is no death. There is no death because everything is alive by definition. And there is no body and life. So this definition is important in order to understand why some people keep insisting that we are living bodies. We are, for example, economical animal, or what is the expression in
social animal?
Homo economicus. Homo economicus, homo social, yeah. It means we are economical living beings. Homo is human, but they don't give, especially nowadays, the science don't accept spirit. By definition, maybe, I mean, everybody studies something, but Suhail studied medicine, human body, and what is in it and out, comes in, goes out of it, etc. Do they talk about spirit at all?
No, they don't.
By definition, medicine cannot deal with spirit because spirit cannot be put in a lab in a material form. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, they don't. When somebody is dying or they declare somebody dead, they don't talk about his or her spirit leaving. They say he doesn't have any brain function, he's not breathing, he can't breathe or she can't breathe on their own, things like this. So,
as a result, he is not alive.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Not the spirit has left.
Correct. And that doesn't, unless like some, the doctor, wants to talk about it or the patient does. But otherwise, by accepted standard, then nobody brings it up. No. Nobody.
It's a science. It's a science.
No, exactly. And when you study it, no, that there's no spirit. That's not even a word. So that comes up.
No, listen. So when the medicine studies or the people or the materialist understanding studies the body of a human being, they study the body, although they don't know what it is, they say this is a living body. If you ask them what life is, or only as Suhail said, the organs are functioning, that is life. Now, organs are functioning, that means alive. But they don't know what life is. They don't describe it, but they make the distinction between stone in a human being or an animal, the dog. So in the eye of medical studies or materialist studies, there is no difference between studying human being and animal. But it is another subject to study animal because they don't have some things some qualities in their life like human being. But as a discipline of discipline of medical studies or veterinarian studies, they say we are studying the body of a dog or a cow. The others say we are studying the body of a person who's called human being, a man. But they have the same attitude, studying the body and the sign of functioning. Whether they are studying a dog or whether they are studying a human being, the sign of functioning, of the body functions, of the brain functions, heart functions, I don't know, the kidneys functions, the lung functions. This kind of language they have to use because they cannot put life into the lab under the microscope and study it. So, but they define human beings because there is a difference between stone and human being. Yeah. So anyway, this is the handicap of this modern sciences, all sorts of modern sciences. This is the general disease. Our main subject is this. How about the common people? Because common people don't define themselves as common general public, even Christians, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, I don't know about, but they don't know what they are doing anyway. Hindus are aware of it. They say there is a creator. Now, we have representations here. So these are called idols now, representing something, idols. But anybody is called mushrik, is not necessarily idol worshiper, believing in God, but at the same time, this is a God. If you ask an idol worshiper, by definition, especially in Hinduism, there are many representatives of God. Actually, they say what the Muslims say, God has this attribute, this attribute, this attribute. We symbolize these attributes. We believe in God, they say, ultimately. So they are not atheists. they are misinterpreting divine qualities. So that is something that the ignorance or misinterpretations and not being careful about the definition. Christians, I found the Christians in the same category as well. But what is really atheist and mushrik who doesn't believe anything which has divine quality at all. But explain the universe within itself. It is not really assigning a partner to God, but taking the quality of divinity or divine, giving the quality of divine into another thing without believing in the real divine. So we cannot say shirk is believing in God, but at the same time assign another God. No, no, no. I don't think it is that simple. Thank you. I spoke a lot today, as usual.
All right, thank you. Interesting points. We will stop here for today, unless there's anyone who wants to make a comment. If given 5 seconds. All right, so inshallah, next week we'll pick up from the third matter. And all right, thank you all for joining in and sharing your comments. Alhamdulillah, very fruitful discussion. Is there something on the chat? Oh, Hatice, you have some nice definition. Can you please read up real quick? Thanks.
Sure. I just want to summarize the definitions in my head. So atheism being one, or giving the quality of divine to things while rejecting the divine itself, and then polytheism, misattributing the qualities of the divine while still acknowledging the divine itself. So I think in a nutshell, that summarizes it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Beautiful indeed. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save except that which you've taught us. Indeed, you're all knowledgeable, all wise. وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.